SA Civil Aviation Authority is due to host a conference this week on issues the industry faces after the COVID-19 pandemic. The aviation industry under huge pressure as well due to several safety groundings. We're joined now by the South African Civil Aviation Authority CEO, Khoza. Poppy, good afternoon to you. We know that the aviation industry has been so badly affected. If I've got my numbers right, only around 58–59% of the number of domestic flights are flying compared to where we were before the pandemic. Do you think the industry will ever recover?
Thank you very much, Stephen, for the opportunity. We are very hopeful, of course, as the South African Civil Aviation Authority, that, things are actually looking very positive for the industry, both from the domestic market, but also internationally. And the reason why we are hosting the National Aviation Conference this coming Friday is really just to take stock and discuss the issues that they relate to the recovery, but also looking at the issues in terms of how do we sustain ourselves beyond the COVID-19 pandemic. Of course, the civil aviation industry was dealt a heavy blow when we saw aircraft, being grounded because of the lockdowns, locally, but also internationally. And we believe that it is opportune time that we go back to the drawing board and have a conversation around how do we reset and make sure that as we have begun to operate, in fact, to even most of the countries, that one, we do so safely, but equally, we also focus our attention more on recovery. As you rightly pointed out, the figures, as we know them, pre-COVID, we still have a long way to go in order to reach those numbers and, in fact, grow beyond the COVID-19 numbers. So we're very excited that we will be coming together as the regulatory authority. The Deputy Minister of Transport will, of course, be in attendance, officiating the event, and to have those discussions with the captains of the industry, with the academia, and all our stakeholders, talking about civil aviation matters and the future of aviation beyond COVID-19.
I mean, it sounds very important. What we've also seen is that it seems, and I know some people have been warning of this, some pilots have left the country, mechanics, technicians, they've gone to other places. Aviation, of course, is a global business. It's quite easy to move around if you're in aviation. Have we lost a lot of experience, a lot of know-how?
As you said, Stephen, rightfully, aviation is a global business. And of course, with the domestic market having not recovered, of course, people will be looking for greener pastures. They'll be looking for, to put food on the table. They look for employment. And if employment cannot be found in South Africa, one would expect that because there are opportunities elsewhere, people would really, try their best to secure employment. And therefore, it goes without saying, that people, because it's their livelihoods, they would be looking for greener pastures. Have we lost the critical skills? Not at this point. If one were to look at our license statistics, which indicate that the active licenses, in fact, what we had before COVID-19 and what we have now, we have not even reached, I think, 60% of, those licenses have been renewed. And what it tells us is that there's quite a number of people with these critical skills, some of them sitting at home. Others are struggling to get jobs even overseas because it's not a South African issue, but it's a global issue where even, globally, all airlines, all countries, they are really struggling to recover. So before COVID-19, there were strong indications, particularly from the UN agency, the International Civil Aviation Organization, to say we need to start at the time building the pipeline for the aviation skills for the future because the growth projections at the time were indicating that sooner or later we will in fact have a brain drain, so to speak, and that's because the age profile at the time was people, possessing technical skills being of age 55 years and above. But COVID-19, brought a spin. The dynamic changed completely, which meant that we are now having excess skills, critical skills, in fact, idly not doing anything, and all others, in fact, looking elsewhere, to secure their livelihoods. So It is something that we are watching as the regulatory authority. It is something that we are taking cue from the international community in terms of this movement. And it is quite concerning that, of course, we still have not recovered, but we are hopeful that as things have opened up, as we have started operating, that the growth, or rather the recovery projection will in fact increase into the future.
And Poppy, as a regulator, any regulator that makes decisions is going to have people who are unhappy with them, right? If you ground an airline, you're going to have people unhappy with you. You're going to be asked, are you being fair? We saw, for example, recently an airline being grounded. We saw SAA having that alpha floor event during the pandemic when they were receiving vaccines going to fetch them from the UK. Just for the record, you make your decisions based only on technical data. You do it politically neutrally. The minister, no one else has any impact. Is that right?
Let me take you back, Stephen, why the Civil Aviation Authority was established in the first place. Excuse me. The Civil Aviation Authority was established. In fact, this is from the convention, which was signed back in 1944. The international community took a decision that we need to establish these agencies who are going to be apolitical agencies that are going to be really looking at matters of aviation safety and security without any political interference at all. The Civil Aviation Authority, in our context, South Africa, is established in terms of the Civil Aviation Act, and it is a juristic person. It has a structure, it has its own board of directors, but of course, the shareholder will be a government and will report directly to the Department of Transport. Ours is very technical. It's safety and security and nothing else. If, Stephen, we become complacent and we don't do what is expected of us as a regulatory authority, you can imagine what is likely to happen. We have a very good record in South Africa, more than 30 years of having no air crash that would have, killed so many people. That is the record that we must preserve with all we have. And therefore, any notion that suggests anything that has to do with politics, we are not politicians. We are a technical institution that must, in fact, regulate without fear or favor. And we will not shy away from executing our mandate as given by the government and the people of this country. And therefore, we can't be pressured by anyone because this is a very technical environment. And also, again, I must emphasize that the decisions of the regulatory authority are not beyond reproach. Our decisions, they can be challenged even in a court of law. Granted, we can make mistakes. Granted, we can miss something. But those decisions, they can, in fact, be challenged. So we cannot afford to put the Civil Aviation Authority in that kind of a situation where we take decisions that are politically motivated or decisions that are not in line with the regulatory framework as well as the requirements that are dictated upon us by the international community. We get subjected equally by the International Civil Aviation Organization. When they get here, in fact, even other countries, for instance, the United States Federal Aviation Administration was visiting us just recently in November. We are still in the audit process with them. And therefore, everything that we do gets checked elsewhere. So there is no room for politics. Let me take you back to the issue of the SAA alpha flow, because I think this issue has been, playing out, and I think maybe sometimes there are certain things that are missed. The SAA alpha flow incident was not, first of all, the first to have happened at South African Airways. There were other incidents that happened dating back to 2014 and leading up to the recent one of 2021. And therefore, one doesn't fully understand as to why are we having this one on the spotlight when there's been other incidents of the similar nature happening before. But looking at this one, let's look at the airmanship. Did the pilots do what they were expected to do? Absolutely. Did the aircraft end up in an aircraft accident? No. Therefore, are the systems working? In our view, yes, they are working.
Poppy, we're going to have to leave it there. I thank you very much indeed. I really appreciate it. Poppy Khoza is the CEO of the South African Civil Aviation Authority. In a moment.